In this episode, we're finally starting work on our 4 downhill mountain biking trails. First, I'll be showing you the mini skid steer we rented to clear out piles of debris. Then I'll show you the trail system map and how the half pipe is coming along. And finally, you'll see the long process of hand clearing the rest of the trails by hand. If you're new here, we're Alicia and Shad. We spent the last 3 years traveling the country in our RV, looking for the right piece of land to finally call home. And we found it. 15 acres filled with tall, beautiful longleaf pines. Now we're learning as we go. We bought an excavator and a mini skid steer, and our goal is to build mountain biking trails and disc golf course and turn this land into something we can raise our family on. And now we're starting what might be the project we've been most excited about, building our own mountain biking trail system. When Shad and I started traveling in our RV, that's when we really picked up mountain biking. It quickly became our favorite thing to do together. Everywhere we went, we'd search out the best trails in each state, and it let us see the country in such a unique way. We fell in love with it instantly, and over the years, it's become something we both really enjoy, and we've always dreamed of building trails on our own land. Not just so we can ride at home, but also so one day we can teach our kids to mountain bike, and they'll be ready to hit the trails with us when we travel again. When it came time to actually design and build the trails, we decided to bring in professionals. As much as Shad and I love learning and doing projects ourselves, we knew a trail system like this would be best handled by someone with years of experience. And after searching online, we found Long Cane Trails. This isn't sponsored by any means, we've just had a great experience working with them. Here's a look at the trail system they laid out on our property. You can see how the topography works. The center of the property is fairly level, with a gradual downhill slope all the way to the back. That means all 4 trails flow down and finish at the same spot, almost like a ski slope. Once you reach the bottom, you'll take the access road that we built in our last video to climb back up and start another run. The first trail is Rue Ridge, marked in blue. We named this one after our dog Remy Rue, of course. It runs along the ridgeline where you can look down and see the creek, which follows the property line the whole way. It's a really unique spot to ride, being that high up with those views. Next is Turtletown, a shorter trail that connects to Rue Ridge. It goes over the culvert we built. We named it Turtletown because we always seem to find turtles in this area of the property. Then we have Donnie Downhill. Shad came up with this one. It's a mix of the Great Donnie as well as my middle name Dawn. So it felt fitting to tie us both into the trail. This one also has our half pipe on it. And then on the far side, the Green Trail. We haven't settled on a name for this one yet. We've tossed around Thunder Ridge after Thunder Mountain Trail in Bryce Canyon, which is one of our favorite rides. But we're open to ideas. So if you have any name suggestions, let us know in the comments. Okay, Rue Ridge. Rue Ridge. Come through these trees. This is where I'll start. After the trails were designed, Todd from Long Cane Trails came out and marked the trails with flags. Each flag shows the path the trail will follow, so walking along them gives us our first look at how the trails will flow through the property. Snakes through here. Here. It just cuts, does like a big circle. I love that Remy's in all the shots. It's so cute. Bank. That berm we just passed is called Bubby's Berm. We named it after Shad's dog, Rocky. His nickname was Bubby. He was a boxer, really special to Shad, and we thought this would be a good way to honor him. And if you can't tell, we really love our dogs. Ah! Go down. Oh, it's your dad. Does it come back up there? Right there?
You gotta get the finger in the video for sure.
The finger?
Yeah, point it, yeah.
Well, sometimes it would be hard to see.
How would they know?
How will they know? We're still on Rue Ridge here. The trail winds through the forest past Bubby's Berm, and now we're coming up on the ridgeline. This is where the trail starts to get steeper and a lot harder to walk, but it's going to make for a great ride.
I fully committed to the spider webs for this documentation. This will be fun. I think it's so beautiful when you ride a ridge. That's why this one's got to be Rue Ridge. Remy! Woo! Almost went down.
Oh,
Careful!
there it is.
I did the same thing.
That's slick, I guess. It's like a spit.
Yeah. He's like, put your 4-wheel drive in.
Along this section, the creek runs down at the bottom of this hill. It's really hard to see right now with all the brush, but once it's opened up, the view should be much clearer. What's neat is the creek sits in kind of a gully with a bank on the far side that also gives us more privacy from our neighbors.
We're gonna go around this big boy. Look at that big boy. That is a big guy. Thank you. Hey, dickhead. I thought you were being a gentleman.
It's a little hard to imagine how a trail will actually be cut into this hillside. Supposedly they'll be bringing a dozer back here, but it feels so steep, it's really tough to imagine machines working in this spot. Definitely another reason why we wanted professionals handling this part of the job.
It's like a jungle in here now.
It really is. You like can't hardly see the sky anymore when you're back in here.
Big guy's dead there. This one right here.
Oh man, yeah. He's fallen into that tree.
This is the end of Rue Ridge, where it'll eventually meet up with all the other trails. Right now, it's pretty tough to picture. It just feels like a lot of debris and chaos back here right now.
Okay, now this is the green trail. We crossed the creek. It's coming up. We got a flag right there.
Yeah, it comes up and over there and up around.
Oh, nice.
I'm assuming this is the turnaround.
That's cool. So it'll be kind of like a berm right here.
Yeah.
Now we're walking up the Far Ridgeline trail. This one's designed as a downhill trail, so we're actually walking it backwards right now. The hillside's a little higher than Rue Ridge, with views looking down towards the creek that runs alongside it. The plan is to add 2 bridges here, one to cross the creek and one to cross back before the trail finishes at the bottom.
He's in the river.
Do you see a flag on that side anywhere? I don't know if we
Comes
crossed
up
here.
here.
Oh yeah, it drops down there.
Oh, it drops this way, yep. So I'm gonna go this way. It'll be crazy to see this before and after. Part of me wishes I would have filmed the land like this before anything was ever cleared. It's raining. Remy! Hey! What are you doing, crackhead? Yeah, now it's back on the hillside. This will be cool though, on the hill.
As we walk alongside the ridgeline, the hillside drops off and the view is really something. The trees here are massive. Once it's all cleared out, it'll be even more fun to show you what it really looks like. But to spare you the time of walking this entire ridgeline with us, since this is the longest trail by far, I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to the very top. Up here is where the trail actually begins, right alongside the front of the property. On one side is the road and on the other side is our driveway. This is where this trail will actually begin. You'll get access to it from the driveway. Now we're on Donnie Downhill. This is one of the flatter trails on the property, and it runs through the center, coming off the start of Rue Ridge. I'm actually showing it to you from about halfway through. I didn't start at the beginning here. So right now this section is pretty chaotic with a lot of debris to still clean up.
Another one. And comes back up here.
It's kind of hard to tell, but right here there are a lot of different elevation changes, so we're thinking it could be a great spot for a small scale scores. Since it's tucked right behind the house and easy to get to, it feels like the perfect place for that kind of feature. But maybe the coolest part of this trail is the half-pipe feature. When we walked the trails with Todd, he noticed this natural cutout in the land and got excited about turning it into a half-pipe. Here you can see the start of where the trail will drop in. This is the view from inside the half-pipe. You'll drop in from up there and then ride the wall along the side. Right behind me is this huge boulder. One of the first times we walked the property, we found it, and I remember getting way too excited over a big rock.
Oh, this will be so cool. And you'll go up and down. Up here. You were looking forward to that, huh? Up there. This is so cool. This will be a blast.
Now we've reached the end of the half-pipe, which is also the end of Donnie Downhill. This is where it'll meet up with all the other trails. Right now it's just piles and piles of debris and a lot of chaos. But once it's all cleaned up, this will be the spot that connects everything together. The next step was for Long Cane Trails to come back out. Their crew chainsawed the trees and the brush that were in the path of the trails and piled the debris along the trail. From there, it became our job to clear out all those piles and get the trails cleaned up before they could come back out and cut them in. As you can see, this was going to be a pretty big job as there were a lot of piles of debris for us to have to clean up. So we got to work and rented a Bobcat Mini Skid Steer with a grapple attachment. We started out working on Turtletown Trail first. I've had very little training on a regular skid steer, but I've never operated one of these ride-on versions before. This shot is actually my very first time using one. At first, it was pretty intimidating. Not having the cage walls and roof makes you feel a lot more exposed. It took me a few hours to get comfortable, but eventually I got the hang of it. The reason we decided to rent a mini skid steer instead of just using our big one out here is because Todd, our trail builder, had told us to keep our heavy machinery off the trails so they wouldn't get damaged. That's why we went with this smaller machine, so I could pick up all the debris without tearing up the trails. The game plan was to make big piles of the debris off to the side, and then Shad would come in back through with the mulcher and mulch it down so we could clear everything out.
Let's do it.
And of course, we had to recruit some help. My awesome aunt Ariana came out for the day to give us a hand. On this section, we had a really large downed tree. Shad had chainsawed it and cut it into pieces so I could try to move it out of the way. But with all of these logs and trees and me only being a few hours into learning this machine, I just couldn't figure out how to get it out of the way. It was heavy, awkward, and I couldn't make it past this spot, which was kind of a bummer because this section is right before you drop into the half pipe, and I was actually pretty excited to get there. But we'll just have to save that for another day. The next day, we were able to get that big tree out of the way. Shad came in with the excavator and moved it so I could finally keep going. This stretch right here before the half pipe had a lot of large trees and logs, which was a little bit different from all the debris that I was picking up before. This section definitely took me well over an hour and a half to clear up. I'd pick up as many big piles as I could in one go and then toss in extra logs and trees that I missed on the first grab. Now, I'm sure a more skilled operator could have picked up way more at a time, but for me, it was a mix of using the machine and still doing a lot by hand. Shad always laughs at how much handwork I end up doing even when we have equipment, but honestly, I've always kind of enjoyed the physical labor side of things. Sometimes it's just easier for me to grab what I missed by hand than to try to finesse the skid steer to get every last piece. Maybe one day I'll be a better operator, but for now, this system was working. I was also trying not to move the skid steer around too abruptly on the trail. I really didn't want to tear up the ground, so the less movement I made, the better. That's why I mixed in handwork. I'd clear what I could by hand and then use the machine for the bigger logs that I couldn't lift myself. This section gives you a good sense of how much time it took to clean up all the trails. We were only able to use the skid steer on Donnie Downhill, Turtletown, and the first part of Rue Ridge and our Far Ridgeline trail. But once you get further out along the ridges, especially on Rue Ridge, all of that will eventually have to be cleared by hand. You'll see some of those shots coming up. And the best part, all of this was midsummer. Peak heat, peak humidity, but long sleeves, a hat, and boots were absolutely necessary to protect myself from the brush and spiderwebs. So needless to say, I was absolutely roasting out here. Not exactly the smartest time of year to take on trail cleaning, but we got it done. And after all that work, this is the payoff. The trail is finally cleared and it leads straight into the top of the half pipe. This is where the ride will begin dropping in and flowing through one of the coolest features of the property. Now we're back on Turtletown, where it runs alongside a ridgeline. Just below it to the right is Rue Ridge, so if you're riding both trails at the same time, you'd actually be able to see each other on the hillside, which I think is pretty cool. This is the part of the trail that will cross over the culvert that we built in our last video. I'm really excited to see how that's going to turn out.
So this section here took me a good hour or so. Let me flip the camera. All of the debris on this mountain biking trail is picked up and put in a pile over here. Let me go ahead and show you. We had piles and piles. Some of it we threw down there. Most of it we patched up. Let me grab the chainsaw. Okay, So here is the little mini skid and the huge pile of debris. It's all stacked up there. So this was all of that for that trail right here. Lots of trees, lots of debris. I put it next to the access road, so when we get the big mulcher, we can come just mulch it up right on the side here.
After the weekend rental, we had to return the skid steer. I ended up taking a few weeks off from trail cleaning to work on other projects on the land, as this turned out to be a lot harder and a lot more work than we expected. But then it was time for the next phase, all the handwork along the ridgeline. On Rue Ridge, this part took a long time. I went through pile by pile, scattering the debris. I didn't want to just toss everything to the side and have big messy piles along the trail. Instead, I tried to blend it back into the woods so it looked more natural. At first, I thought I could haul it all out with a wheelbarrow for Shad to mulch later, but with how steep the hillside is, that idea went out the window pretty quickly. Scattering the debris throughout the forest ended up being the best option. I'll be the first to admit I was a little intimidated starting on these piles. They'd been here for about a month or so after the trail builders came through, and I kept thinking there might be snakes hiding in them. Luckily, I never came across any, just a lot of sticks and brush to work through. But little by little, I got all the piles along the ridgeline taken care of. There were definitely moments I kept second guessing our sanity out here, wondering what we got ourselves into, but I've got a good feeling all of this work will be worth it one day. A few weeks later, we decided to rent the same skid steer again. Since I first started cleaning the trails, Shad's been doing a lot of mulching, and it's really opened up areas I couldn't get to the first time around. If you remember an earlier shot of this half pipe, it was completely full of debris. Here's a look back at what it used to look like. Since then, Shad came through with the excavator and has mulched everything down, which really opens up the area. This is the spot where all the trails meet at the bottom, so it was important to get it all cleaned up. And now with the area opened up, we decided to rent the same skid steer one more time so I could finally get down here and clear up the debris inside the half pipe and tackle a few of the piles I missed the first time around. It's actually pretty cool to see the before and after at the end of this half pipe. At first it was nothing but debris and downed trees, and honestly just felt pretty chaotic. It was hard to even picture the vision. But now it's all starting to come together, and looking back, you forget just how much was actually here before we cleared it out. And just as Shad finally gets everything cleaned up in this area, here I go making another big pile for him to come back and mulch from all the debris inside of the half pipe. Shad cleans it up, I make a new pile, it keeps us both busy. I guess that's just part of the team effort out here. If you remember that big downed tree I couldn't pass the first time right before the half pipe, eventually we were able to move it, and now I'm using the mini skid steer to clean up the leftover chunks of log. You can hardly tell in the video, but this section is shaped like a bowl, and the logs were sitting on the hillside. I'm sure a more experienced operator could have handled this, but they were too heavy and I couldn't reach them easily with the skid steer from the top or the bottom. I also didn't feel really comfortable trying to pick them up that way, so I just dragged them into place by hand and then picked them up with the skid steer. Finally, there were just a few more piles at the top of the property along the driveway that I'd missed the first time around, so I went back and spot checked those. I actually finished clearing the rest of the piles earlier than expected and still had a day left with this rental. So I made the most of it by cleaning up as many extra logs and debris as I could, both along the trails and along the property.
It's been a super long weekend of cleaning up the mountain biking trails and just debris across the land. I've been using the Bobcat again. We rented this for the weekend. This is our second time renting it, so that we could pick up a bunch of sticks and stuff. You can see this is a whole new pile of logs that I picked up with it. As well as pretty much all of these logs down here I picked up with today. Our goal is to try to clean up the land as much as possible, get all of the down trees, obviously it's not gonna be perfect, it's nature, but just get as much of the down trees as possible, as well as everything on the mountain biking trails that we can get to. So now I'm gonna go and just walk the mountain biking trails again one more time, just make sure I got all of the piles that I can get with this thing taken care of, since this is like my last hour or two with the machine. So hopefully the trails are looking good.
Coming soon on Beneath the Pines, we rent the brand new Cat 265 XE with a mulcher to really tackle some serious cleanup across the property. You'll see even more debris cleared out, plus a first look at the 23 pine trees we planted along our driveway. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out.